Indonesia posted 2.09 billion trade surplus in May 2020. Good afternoon, viewers from Indonesia and Singapore. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from business, economic, and capital market sectors. With me, Clara Antawidjaja, and this is Market Headlines. And viewers, we are going to start market headlines by looking at the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. So GCI opened at level of 4,906.68, and then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index was on level of 4,827.91, and the index was showing weakening trend by the second session's closing time. The index was closed at the level of 4,816.33. And in short, GCI was weakening at 1.31%. And next, we are going to see the sectoral movement. Leading the dynamics of today's trading as the leader of the strengthening trend, we got infrastructure that went up 0.33%. We got consumer goods that went up 0.23%. And the next, as the leader of the weakening trend, we got finance that went down 2.77%, and agriculture that went down 2.01%. And as the top gainers in today's trading, here's the list of the stock for you. We got TLKM with the value that went up 1.98%. We got INDF with a value that went up 1.64%. We got GJRM with a value that went up 2.44%, and TBIG with a value that went up 1.83%. And meantime, for the top losers for today's trading, mostly from the banking sectors, we got BBRI with a value that went down 4.29%. We got BBNI with a value that went down 6.04%. And we got BMRI with a value that went down 3.48%. BBTN with a value that went down 5.78%. Next, we are going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Rupiah opened at the level of 14,228, and rupiah was also showing strengthening trends towards US dollar and was closed at the level of 14,107. In summary, rupiah was strengthening at 0.34%. Garuda Indonesia is preparing strategies to recover company's performance in the new normal era. The management stated that one of the main strategies is implementing efficiency.
Indonesian state-owned enterprise Garuda Indonesia is preparing strategies to recover company's performance in new normal era. President Director of Garuda Indonesia, Irfan Setiaputra, said that the main key driver in new normal era is maintaining business continuity after being inactive for a very long time due to COVID-19 pandemic. The director even said that one of the main strategies is implementing efficiency. Meanwhile, the director stated that the other strategies to maintain the business and company's cash flow are renegotiate aircraft rental costs while extending the aircraft rental period, renegotiate companies' liabilities that will be due, and also to conduct a cost efficiency program that prioritizes flight safety and services. And also in the same time, the company will optimize the company's cargo business line. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Astra Auto Parts decided to distribute a dividend of 294 billion rupiah. The dividend is equal to 40% of the company's net profit in 2019.
Shareholders' annual general meeting of Astra Auto Parts decided to distribute 40% of company's net profit in 2019 as dividend. The total dividend hit 294 billion rupiah or 61 rupiah per share. The amount of dividend has also calculated the previous interim dividend on October last year, as much as 19 rupiah per share. In official statement, the management informed that the dividend will be distributed on July 9th to all shareholders whose names are registered in the company's list of shareholders on June 19, 2020. Not only approved the dividend distribution, the shareholders' general meeting also determined 60% of company's net profit in 2019 as much as 450 billion rupiah as retained earnings, which will be used for working capital and the company's investment agenda. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Stay tuned on market headlines.
Tahun demi tahun berganti, usia bertambah seiring setiap tujuanku tercapai. Gak nyangka, keinginan menikah, DP rumah, beli mobil, dan liburan terpenuhi juga. Dulu sering denial dengar investasi reksadana. Who knows, dari keraguan itu malah jadi penasaran dan belajar terus. Kalau coba ingat-ingat lagi, waktu cepat banget berlalu. Awal mula kerja, aku baru sadar kalau tujuan hidupku bukan cuma memenuhi kebutuhan sehari-hari aja, tapi lebih besar lagi. Aku langsung rencanain keuangan, alokasiin uang tiap bulan, dan catat cash flow rutin. Di tengah jalan, lupa banget kalau ada inflasi. Aku pun memperhitungkan inflasi di perencanaan keuanganku. Salah satu cara biar persiapan keuanganku nggak kalah sama inflasi, ya dengan investasi reksadana. Nggak seperti yang kubayangkan sebelumnya. Reksadana cukup Rp100.000 udah bisa investasi. Risiko lebih kecil karena danaku terbagi di berbagai instrumen. Jadi mudah dan tenang karena investasiku diurus manajer investasi. Kata expert financial, sebelum investasi reksadana, penting banget buat nentuin tujuan investasi. Biar tahu dananya buat apa. Aku breakdown deh tujuan masa depanku, supaya lebih jelas dan terarah. Tapi kurasa perlu belajar lagi tentang reksadana. Aku kepoin berbagai sumber terpercaya. Dari situ, aku tahu reksadana terbagi beberapa jenis. Reksadana pasar uang, reksadana pendapatan tetap, reksadana saham, dan reksadana campuran. Lupa, ada lagi, yaitu reksadana terproteksi dan reksadana syariah. Aku langsung cari manajer investasi kredibel yang bakal ngelola dan investasiin danaku ke beberapa jenis instrumen. Tentunya, MI ini punya reputasi, pengalaman historis, penghargaan, jumlah dana kelolaan, biaya, hingga kinerja tahunan bagus dan stabil. Setelah itu, aku bikin rencana investasi untuk tujuanku sesuai prioritas. Aku tergolong investor dengan profil risiko agresif, karena berani pilih investasi dengan tingkat risiko lebih tinggi untuk dapetin return yang tinggi. Aku pilih beberapa jenis reksadana yang sesuai. Lalu, kutentukan alokasi aset di masing-masing reksadana. Jadi deh portofolio investasiku. Seiring waktu, komposisi alokasi asetku akan terus berubah karena perubahan pasar. Supaya tujuanku tercapai, aku lakuin portofolio rebalancing secara berkala sesuai sisa waktu tujuanku. Sampai pada titik tujuan-tujuanku tercapai. Dimulai dari breakdown tujuan masa depan, tahu reksadana dan jenis-jenisnya, profil risiko, membuat portofolio investasi, hingga portofolio rebalancing. Well, seluruh langkah itu mengantarku ke titik ini. Yap, inilah ceritaku mencapai tujuan-tujuan hidup bersama reksadana. Menarik kan? Aku udah memulai reksadana. Tunggu apa lagi? Mulai dari sekarang, siap masa depan dengan reksadana. Reksadana, investasi tanpa batas.
Welcome back. Keep economy afloat. Indonesia has been drawing up a plan to open travel bubble to 4 countries, which are China, South Korea, Japan, and Australia.
With the pandemic throwing both international and domestic trade and travel out the gear since earlier this year, such travel bubbles are now being recommended to stay economy afloat. Therefore, government through Ministry for Maritime and Investment Affairs has decided to open travel bubble to 4 countries. Those are Japan, China, South Korea, and Australia. Such bubble would allow the members of the group to rekindle trade ties with each other and kickstart sectors such as travel and tourism. Odo Manuhutu, as the Deputy Coordinating Minister involved in tourism issues, said that discussions have been going on to set up criteria for permitting travel between Indonesia and the 4 countries. Such exceptions to travel restrictions between countries have been referred as the travel bubbles, travel bridges, or corona corridors.
Saat ini teman-teman di Kementerian Luar Negeri bersama kita dan kemudian sedang merancang travel bubble untuk 4 negara, yaitu RRT, kemudian RRT Korea Selatan dan Jepang dan Australia. Travel bubble ini memang dibahas dalam ratas pada tanggal 28 lalu, yaitu kita buka dulu dengan 4 negara, pelan-pelan ke negara lain.
The arrangement with the 4 countries will be prototypes before other travel routes are opened, as Manuhutu said. He indicated that 4 countries were selected because their investment has helped Indonesia's economy a lot. From Jakarta, Muhammad Olga for IDX Channel.
It may be a painful fact to contemplate during these state border restrictions days, but last year the world was more mobile than ever, with people taking approximately 4.6 billion flights. In April this year, planes just carried 47 million passengers. Of course, it brings so much economic consequences, and right now there are plenty discussions worldwide regarding travel bubble. What is that, and how the world can come up with such terms? And therefore, in the first graphic, I would like to elaborate more about travel bubble. Here it is, we can see it. What could a travel bubble look like? In here, from the statement from Oxford University, it is clearly stated that travel bubble is a set of countries agree to open their border to each other, but keep borders to all other countries closed. And these terms come up in the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was initiated by Australia and New Zealand that plans to be rolled out in August 2020. And there are also terms and conditions in applying this travel bubble. There are some potential requirements. First of all, rapid COVID-19 test and also temperature check, and not to mention about the contact tracing provisions, and also no quarantine period. And the reason why New Zealand has been especially keen to discuss of the travel bubble arrangement is really obvious. In the fiscal year of 2019, almost 40% of tourists and 25% of tourism spending in New Zealand were Australians. But the Kiwi tourists in Australia also made up 15% of the visitors. In addition, around 60,000 people move permanently each year between the 2 countries. And the idea of gaining favor of a travel bubble creations also popped up in the governments of Indonesia's head as well. Odo Manuhutu, as the Deputy Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment, said in a virtual news conference that the country's foreign ministry will draw up a criteria, so-called travel bubble, with the 4 countries. So what are those? Let's see it through the next graphic. Here it is, Indonesia's travel bubble prospective countries. First of all, China. And second of all is South Korea, Japan, and as follow as Australia. We gathered the data from the Ministry of Maritime and Investment Affairs, as these 4 countries are assessed to be the largest contributors on our tourism spender. And these 4 countries as well are particularly important for Southeast Asia's largest economy, which is Indonesia, accounting for a large percentage of tourism and investment inflows. China and Japan provided more than a third of a foreign direct investment into Indonesia in 2019, while Chinese and Australians together accounted for over 20% of the foreign visitors last year. Government sees such urgency to make this travel bubble happen into reality because when we take a look at Indonesia's foreign tourist arrival data, it fell deeper as months went by. And let's see it through the next graphic. Here it is. We gathered the data regarding Indonesia's foreign tourist arrival in the first quarter of 2020. Let me take a look at the January data in the first quarter. It hit 1.2 million foreign tourist arrivals. But then, as we can see, the trend is declining as ever, and it hits the lowest level at the April by only hitting 160,000 foreign tourist arrivals. Can you imagine? From 1.2 million tourist arrivals to be only 160,000 tourist arrivals. Prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, Indonesia had outlined a target to attract at least 17 million foreign tourists in 2020. Now, as the country is on the lookout for the breakthrough to breathe the new life into tourism industry amid the challenges presented by the ongoing pandemic, the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy and also Ministry of Maritime and Investment Affairs is formulating strategies to cope with the problem. One of them is encouraging visits from the Class A and B foreign tourists. So basically, foreign tourists are divided into three categories: Class A, Class B, and Class C. And let's see the next graphic about the categorized. Here it is, the criteria of a foreign tourist. First of all, we can have a Class A, which are countries with the countries with the highest budget. For example, for European countries, China, Singapore, and also United States. And moving on to the B class, it is the countries with medium budget spenders, such as Southeast Asia countries and also Middle East. And of course, with the Class C, it's a country with the kind of low budget spenders. For example, for African countries. And government, through coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs and Investment, explained that Indonesia will minimize the presence of the Class C tourists. It is just according to him, the survey proved that many loaded tourists would come to Indonesia as there is cost factor. And to get clearer view, let's see his statement in the next graphic. Here it is. We got a statement from the Minister of Maritime and Investment Affairs, Luhut Binsar Panjaitan. He stated clearly that literally by encouraging Class A and Class B foreign tourist arrivals, we want to reduce the Class C tourists because based on the survey, there will be more wealthy tourists to come. And other than emphasizing the needs of foreign tourist arrival, government also boosts domestic travelers as well. Recovery of domestic tourism has been the first target before the country reopens to tourists from abroad. And the tourism sector in Indonesia faces a potential loss of $4 billion due to the drastic decline of the foreign tourists and 60 trillion rupiah due to fewer domestic tourists from January to April. And now, as the government is discussing criteria for the travel bubble, we hope it can come up with the right measures and it can recover tourism sector without putting high risk on the new coronavirus spreading. Stay tuned to market headlines because we will be right back after the break.
Tercatat 74,5 triliun rupiah, lebih rendah masih dibandingkan tahun lalu 30 April. Tahun lalu 30 April defisitnya adalah 100,3 triliun.
Saat ini lebih mudah untuk mendapatkan informasi mengenai perkembangan ekonomi dan bisnis di Indonesia dengan aplikasi IDX Channel. Mulai dari berita, makro dan mikroekonomi, politik hingga hiburan. Anda juga dapat berbagi artikel, foto, dan video ke semua platform media sosial yang Anda miliki. Beragam informasi hari ini bisa di-download di dalam aplikasi idxchannel.com. IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business, and Capital Market Channel.
Bagaimana kondisi terkini dunia usaha pasca pandemi COVID-19?
Tentu kita harus realitas, di satu sisi isu kesehatan harus mendapat fokus, dan harus bisa tertangani, tapi di sisi lain juga dunia kerja harus tetap berputar.
Pemerintah harus betul-betul hati-hati kapan memutuskan sektor ekonomi itu yang mulai reopening.
Presiden Joko Widodo yang meminta jajaran Kementerian Pariwisata dan Ekonomi Kreatif untuk mengidentifikasi destinasi wisata yang wisatanya bisa dibuka secara bertahap.
Secara bertahap kita bisa membuka sektor pariwisata.
Kementerian BUMN akan memangkas pengelompokan klaster perusahaan BUMN.
Nanti klasternya akan jadi 12 dan masing-masing klaster itu ada supply chains-nya.
Welcome back. Indonesia posted a bigger than expected 2.09 billion trade surplus in May. However, exports and imports plunged the most as coronavirus pandemic slashed the global trade.
May exports were 10.53 billion US dollar, went down 28.95% year-on-year, and partly due to falling shipments of coal and coffee as well as oil and gas. The poll has forecast previously at 17.98% fall. In the other hand, imports plummeted by 42.2% year-on-year in May to be only 8.44 billion US dollar, compared with the poll expectations for a 24.55% drop.
Terciptanya surplus ini kurang menggembirakan karena ekspornya mengalami penurunan sebesar 28,95%, importnya turunnya jauh lebih dalam yaitu sebesar 42,20%. Ekspor kita mengalami pertumbuhan negatif baik untuk pertanian, industri pengolahan dan pertambangan. Impor kita turun curam baik karena impor barang konsumsi, impor barang bahan baku dan impor barang modal. Tentunya penurunan impor bahan baku dan modal ini perlu betul-betul diperhatikan.
The head of statistics in Indonesia, Suharyanto, explained that this surplus was less encouraging because exports fell and imports fell far deeper. According to Suharyanto, this decline needs to be considered and watch out because it would have a major influence on economic growth. Jakarta, Rajo Pamo for IDX Channel.
Statistic Indonesia recorded increase in anti-corruption behavior index compared to the last year. However, it hasn't reached government target yet.
Statistic Indonesia recorded 2020 anti-corruption behavior index as much as 3.84 from scale 0 to 5. The number increased 0.84 point compared to 2019 level that was on 3.7 points. Head of Statistic Indonesia Suharyanto explained that government is targeting 2020 anti-corruption behavior index at 4 points on a scale of 0 to 5 points. In short, anti-corruption behavior index was improved despite not meeting government's target.
Karena di sini nilainya adalah 3,84 meningkat dari tahun sebelumnya, kita boleh kategorikan bahwa masyarakat Indonesia sebetulnya sudah sangat anti korupsi. Jadi mengarah ke 5 berarti menjadi semakin anti korupsi. Dengan capaian 3,84 ini kita masih ada sedikit selisih dengan target RPJMN, di mana pada tahun 2020 ini target indeks perilaku anti korupsinya adalah sebesar 4, sementara nilainya adalah 3,84.
Statistic Indonesia said that increase occurred because public servants' quality were far better, so the experience index related to public showed improvement. Based on data related to anti-corruption behavior index, Statistic Indonesia noted an increase from 3.65 points to 3.91 points on public experience index. Jakarta Rajo Patmo for IDX Channel.
After being temporarily closed in the period of large-scale social restrictions during COVID-19 pandemic, a number of shopping centers or malls in Jakarta are allowed to reopen today.
provincial government of Jakarta allows shopping centers or malls in Jakarta to reopen its operational on June 15, 2020. The mall's reopening is already listed on the agenda of large-scale social restrictions transition. The chairman of Shopping Centers Management Association Chapter Jakarta, Alan Hidayat, stated that malls managements are committed to perform the health protocols, which aims to protect all visitors and the mall's employees itself. The mall's management will strictly supervise the health protocols implementation, such as face mask using, physical distancing, thermal check, prioritizing cashless payment, and also routinely clean up malls area with disinfectant. At the same time, the management should ensure the limitation of visitors and employees' number and operational hours. From all sources, IDX Channel.
Finance Ministry ensures the budget spending in the National Economic Recovery Program will remain transparent and accountable. At the same time, the ministry requests criticism and input from various parties to strengthen the program implementations.
Various criticisms and input related to the running of the National Economy Recovery Program is expected to make the implementation of the National Economy Recovery Program run transparent and accountable. Even the financial audit body has asked the government to be careful in aiding and implementing the program's budget. Special Staff of Finance Minister Justinus Prasto explained that currently the ministry is still asking for cooperation and supervision from various parties so that the program runs well. But Justinus rejects the assumption that this policy only concerns the economy recovery without paying attention to aspects of prudent management of the state budget.
Nah, semua ini proporsional dan profesional. Kalau kurang, kita tambah. Pelan-pelan kita laksanakan dengan akuntabel, transparan, dan berdampak. Nah, ini adalah jiwa di balik angka-angka. Maka perdebatan bukan sekedar pada angka, persentase.
In the National Economy Recovery Program, the government has raised its budget to 589.6 trillion rupiah, with details 35% for social protection, 21% for SMEs, 20% for incentive business, 16% for sectoral and regional government, and 8% for SOE and corporate financing. Jakarta, Raharjo Patmo for IDX Channel.
Here it is an update data about coronavirus globally. And the graphic close of market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic business and capital market channel. I'm Clara Antawidjaja. Have a nice evening and stay safe.